Hey, before we start, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy real-life drama stories like this one. I never thought a single notification on my phone could turn an ordinary evening into a moment I would never forget. My wife Laura and I had been together for 7 years, married for 5. Our life wasn't perfect, but I had always valued trust, honesty, and calm communication. Yet, that night, everything I believed about her and our marriage was about to be tested. I had just finished work and was settling into the living room when a notification popped up on my phone. A video call. Laura's name flashed across the screen. At first, I assumed it was normal, friends, family, work perhaps, but something in my gut told me to look a little closer. I answered quietly, keeping my voice steady. What I saw made my heart skip. Laura was on a video call, yes, but not with a friend, not with a family member. She was talking to a man I didn't recognize, in a way that immediately felt intimate. She laughed at something he said, leaned closer to the screen, and her hand brushed her hair in a way that felt like it wasn't meant for just anyone. I froze for a moment. My mind ran through possibilities. Maybe it was innocent, maybe there was an explanation. But instinct told me otherwise. I could feel the familiar tension in my chest, that mix of betrayal and disbelief that comes when you realize someone you trusted might not be the person you thought they were. Instead of confronting her immediately, I stayed quiet. Years of experience had taught me that power often lies in observation, control, and patience, not in shouting or impulsive reactions. I watched silently from my spot, unnoticed, analyzing every word, every gesture, every pause. I noted the comfort in her tone, the way she smiled, things she hadn't shown me in months, maybe years. And then it clicked. This wasn't just a random call. She thought she was being discreet. She assumed I would never notice. But she had forgotten one important detail about me. One thing that would completely change the outcome of this evening. I stayed still, letting the call play out in front of me, every word and gesture etched into my mind. Laura didn't realize that I could see the reflection of the room in the screen, that I could tell which side of the desk she was sitting on, or even the faint details of the man on the other end. She had assumed privacy, assumed invisibility, but she had forgotten that years of shared life sometimes leave clues, and I was trained to notice them. I remembered the small inconsistencies over the past few weeks, the whispered phone calls, the sudden absences, the excuses that didn't quite add up. I hadn't confronted her yet because I wanted to be sure, and more importantly, I wanted to control the moment, to decide how this would unfold without letting anger dictate my actions. As the call continued, Laura laughed at something the man said, leaning in closer. My pulse quickened, but I stayed calm. I didn't yell, I didn't storm into the room, and I certainly didn't make a scene. I simply observed, analyzing every inflection in her voice, every flicker of expression. The truth was clear, but the power of the situation was mine. I could act immediately, or I could wait, letting the consequences land naturally. Then I made my move. I quietly grabbed my laptop and mirrored the call on another device in the living room. The moment she realized I had access, her smile faltered. The easy laughter vanished, replaced by a flash of panic. She thought she had control, thought I wouldn't see beyond the screen, but she had underestimated me. For a brief moment, the air in the room seemed heavier, charged with a tension that words couldn't break. I stayed seated, composed, letting the weight of the situation sink in. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to accuse. Silence can be far more devastating than any shouting match. And then came the subtle shift. Laura's posture stiffened, her movements careful, her voice clipped. I could see the panic in her eyes as she realized that what she thought was a private moment had just turned into a public revelation, but in a way that didn't humiliate her in front of others. Instead, it humiliated her privately, in the only way that mattered, her own awareness of being caught. Laura froze, staring at me across the room, finally realizing that her assumptions about privacy and secrecy had been entirely wrong. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure whether to hang up or continue the conversation. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. The confidence she had carried through the week evaporated in an instant, replaced by the unmistakable weight of being exposed. I stayed seated, calm, steady, letting her internalize the situation on her own. I didn't shout, I didn't demand explanations, and I certainly didn't act impulsively. Years of life experience and patience had taught me that power isn't taken with anger. It's demonstrated with control. Every second of her hesitation, Every flicker of guilt reinforced the message without a single word from me. After a few minutes, she quietly ended the call. Her usual composure was gone. The easy charm she had relied on to navigate social situations, to manipulate or evade, was replaced by the realization that I had seen more than she thought I ever would. For the first time in months, maybe years, she understood that I wasn't just a passive participant in our marriage. I was aware I was capable, and I had chosen exactly how this would unfold. I didn't interrogate her that night. Instead, I left the room to get a glass of water, letting her stew in the silence. It wasn't about punishment, and it wasn't about revenge. It was about boundaries, respect, and demonstrating that deceit, even when carefully hidden, is never without consequence. The realization had been delivered in the most effective way possible: calm, controlled, undeniable. Later, when we spoke, there was no yelling, no begging, no accusations. Just a quiet acknowledgement from both of us that the dynamic had shifted. She had learned in that single video call that actions have consequences, and that trust once broken isn't easily restored. I had reaffirmed my presence, my dignity, and my control, without losing the composure that had defined me all along. That night marked a turning point. Laura would think twice before assuming I wouldn't notice, and our relationship, whatever path it followed from that point, would be shaped by the awareness that I was fully present, fully aware, and fully unwilling to tolerate deception. Silence, observation, and patience had done what words could never have achieved.